I didn't ever really actually think that I was going to be a midwife, which is why I think that midwives are truly our chosen.
I always knew I wanted to be a midwife.
My path to midwifery was a little circuitous.
How did I fall into this? How did this happen?
It was the care that I received during my pregnancy, which was from midwives.
I wanted to do work in the world that had long meaning.
It's more something in you knows that that's what you are, and so you do it.
I felt like I'd been hit on the head with a frying pan, and Spirit said to me, boing, you are a midwife. You better get out there and figure out how to do it.
I'm a midwife.
I am a midwife.
I am a midwife.
I am a midwife.
I'm a midwife.
I'm a midwife.
I'm a midwife.
I am a midwife.
When I looked at how much our country was spending on healthcare and spending on maternity care and all the interventions that were being done, but really we have no better outcomes to justify that. And then I saw that midwifery care, it's cost effective, it's safe, women like it, they're more satisfied with it, and I thought, well, this is a solution, I have to be a part of this.
I've always been an activist my whole life, and what I started doing was combining the role of activism in my community with health and reproductive justice issues. And so I started befriending midwives and going to births, but still didn't think I was going to be a midwife. What happened is that just there was one day that I woke up and said, hey, I have a decision to make. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to El Paso and learn in El Paso, which for me is really significant because I've always lived along the U.S.-Mexico border, and that's where my people are from. That's a really big part of why I'm a midwife, because I feel that it all goes together. You can't look at issues of social justice or reproductive justice without really acknowledging the role of the woman and her reproductive health. I mean, they really go together.
I became a midwife because I wanted women and families to have some control over their births. With my third baby, I had my baby at home with a midwife because I knew I wanted to be a midwife myself, and I wanted that experience for myself. After that, I knew, more than just thinking it was a good idea, I knew it was a good idea. It's the best start for families. Midwifery is the best start for families. I think that's the number one reason I wanted to be a midwife and why I remain a midwife, because I really believe that.
I went to a college which was an all-male college before the year that I arrived. I was in the first class of women at Amherst College. And my time at Amherst as an undergraduate and as a woman of color, as the only woman of color on campus during those 3 years that I was there, was both a formative and a transformative time, I think, because it was the mid-70s. There was a lot of evolution around feminism, ideas of feminism. I had been brought up in a traditional Indian home. I was really exposed a lot to women serving women and normalcy and breastfeeding, the importance of family, being surrounded by family during the maternity care cycle. I was not exposed to fear of childbirth, and I was not exposed to that the idea that birth was a medical emergency. And my father was a scientist, my father was a physicist, so I was quite, I had a lot of respect for science, so it wasn't about being anti-science or anti-medicine, it was about questioning.
I did lots of interesting work before becoming a midwife, but I landed here based on my own experience as a woman, my own respect for women, and deeply wanting to provide them with for them to be met, to be really met at the heart of this transitional time in their lives when they're on walking the bridge to motherhood, and who's going to stand with them and accompany them and respect them and enhance that experience and witness that experience. I believe that being witnessed in that moment deeply changes lives, many, many lives forever.
Girl, you have to have a midwife. And I'm like, midwife? A midwife, a woman, and she'll take care of you, and I'm like, okay. And so I got this incredible care with midwives during my first pregnancy. And I remember saying to myself, the next time I do this, I don't want the hospital. We had a health food store in New Jersey. Someone talked about home birth. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is even getting better. So 2 years, 9 months later, I was eating my words, and I had my second baby with a midwife at home. And that was it. It planted the seed. It was like every woman needs to know about this choice. Every woman needs to have this choice. The midwife who helped me, she started bringing me along to some births, as a helper. And then, became a childbirth educator, and the path, the journey.
Before I became a midwife, I was a radio producer for 10 years, and I specialized in covering Spanish language music in the United States. And I ran all around the country and actually to Latin America, recording music and producing documentary series as a freelance reporter for National Public Radio for Morning Edition and All Things Considered. Two things happened together to push me into midwifery. One, my era of receiving radio grants was coming to a close. That happened at the same time as my second birth, which was a planned home birth. It was one of those typical second births that happened so quickly that my husband caught the baby, and it was the two of us alone in the pink bathroom, the bathroom with the pink walls. That was such a transformative experience for me. And I thought, this just was my thinking, that if this 9-pound, 3-ounce baby could make his way out of me with no assistance other than my husband's hands to receive him, that this possibility should be available to more women, and that I was going to make it happen, that there needed to be more midwives available for women who wanted to experience that.
Was wanting to be a midwife. I knew some people that lived on the farm in Tennessee, and I'd been reading Ian May's books before I even had children of my own. And when I had my first child, it was in the hospital, and I was unhappy with that. It was an okay birth. I did a good job, I have to say. And but then, like within an hour, they took the baby, my daughter, Jasmine, away from me, and I had never thought, who would even imagine that you would have a baby and they would take it away right after you had it? The next birth that I went to was my neighbor who went into labor in the morning, and I was going to watch her little boy when she went to the hospital. And next thing, her husband's banging on my door, help me, she's having it. I was in my nightgown, and I handed my baby off to my husband, and I ran next door and washed my hands, and there she was, like clutching onto the door jamb, like, I was like, obviously she's getting ready to have a baby. So I said, we need to lay her down and take off her pants. You can't have a baby with pants on. So he laid her down and took off her pants. I washed my hands really good, and then I went to catch her baby, and she was laying on the bed, and the baby was coming out, and she was like, and I was like, oh. And so we monkey talked our way through this birth. She was, I said, ooh, and we both had our hands there. She had her hands there, I had my hands there. So the baby got a 4-handed welcome, and the head came out, and we were like, that was all right. Head first, yes. Then, the rest of the baby came out, and we laid the baby up on our chest, and we just all went, and we just stood there in that moment of perfect bliss. Here was this wet, beautiful, kind of squealy baby. We were in her house, in her bed. It was wonderful, but they wrote about it in my local newspaper. What did it say? Neighbor helps out. And then people started calling the press and saying, I want that. Could I have her name? Could she come to my house and help me out?
I am a midwife.
I'm a midwife.
I'm a midwife.
I am a midwife.
I am a midwife.
I am a midwife.
I'm a midwife.
1,200 births later, I'm still just doing one at a time is all you can do. I am a midwife.